Hello everyone, I am glad to welcome you to our channel today. I propose to make a very delicious chocolate cake Prague according to a classic recipe. It is very easy to prepare and I am sure you will absolutely love this cake.
Let's begin by preparing a delightful biscuit. For this recipe, you'll need 6 eggs, 35 grams of rich cocoa powder, 40 grams of smooth melted butter, 10 grams of fragrant vanilla sugar, 150 grams of granulated sugar, 115 grams of all-purpose flour, and a small pinch of salt. Before starting, I have already separated the egg yolks from the whites. To the egg whites, add a pinch of salt and the vanilla sugar, then whisk at high speed using a mixer until you achieve a light and airy lather, resembling a fine soap foam.
Then I keep whipping, gradually start adding about half of the total weight of regular sugar and keep whipping further until steady peaks. Beating time is about 5 to 7 minutes. It depends on the power of your mixer. As a result, you should get such lush and glossy swirls. Remove the whites while aside and begin to beat the yolks over time. They need to be knocked down in the same way as squirrels, about 5 to 7 minutes. They should increase in volume well and lighten as I continue to whip. Gradually add the remaining sugar. I do not recommend adding all the sugar at once, otherwise it will not dissolve completely and sugar grains will remain in the biscuit. And this is such a light and lush mass you should get. As a result, the mixer can be put aside for now. Here we will no longer need it. We will continue to knead the dough with a spatula. Next, carefully combine the whipped egg yolks with the whites, ensuring to gently stir from the bottom upward without rushing until the mixture achieves a uniformly smooth texture.
And here is such a lush mass. It turns out in the end,
Blend for a long time.
don't. How?
Only.
Squirrels. The yolks united.
Right away, we stop.
Now I need to carefully sift all the dry ingredients in this process. Separately, I will mix the flour meticulously, jump into action, and proceed with sifting step by step. I tend to add everything together, primarily because they are all dry ingredients. There is a small amount here. If you feel uneasy, you can sift gradually, first sifting half, mixing thoroughly, and then sifting the remaining half. Using cautious motions from bottom to top, continue stirring until the mixture is uniform and smooth. I must mention upfront that I've experimented with numerous biscuit recipes for Prague cake. Ultimately, I've chosen this particular recipe. It is, in my experience, the simplest to make and, most critically, the most reminiscent of the authentic classic Thor's flavor. At the very end of the preparation process, incorporate the freshly melted butter by thoroughly mixing it with the existing batch of butter. It is imperative not to add it while it's still hot. After melting, allow it to cool slightly beneath room temperature before integrating it into the overall mixture.
This kind of dough cannot wait long, so by this time you should already have the oven heated to 170 degrees.
So the dough is ready. We move on to baking so that the biscuit turns out even and without trimmings. I will bake it in 2 pans at once. Each has a diameter of 20 centimeters. If you don't have 2 molds, it's okay to bake and just take into account a couple of points. At first, the baking time will be longer, approximately 30-35 minutes, and the second point is that a cap can form on top. It's not scary. It's just that after the biscuit cools down, it will need to be knead.
Toalainskor.
My oven is preheated to a precise 170 degrees. I carefully place the biscuits inside for a baking duration of approximately 20 minutes. Biscuits are ready. Be sure to check readiness with a toothpick. It must remain clean and dry. Let them stand a little in the forms for 10-15 minutes. Then carefully cut out of the mold and transfer to the rack. This will cool evenly on all sides. After cooling completely, they need to be wrapped in plastic wrap and sent to the refrigerator at least at 0-2 knock, or you can leave them there overnight. I usually prepare everything the day before and assemble the cake the next day. During this time, we will meticulously prepare the cream for the cake. To achieve this, we will require 400 grams of butter, which must be at room temperature, so make sure to remove it from the refrigerator beforehand. Additionally, we will need 240 grams of condensed milk, 2 yolks, 30 grams of rich cocoa powder, 50 ml of water, and if you prefer, feel free to enhance the flavor by adding a tablespoon of rum to the mixture or opt for a couple of drops of rum essence for a similar effect.
Take a sauténik, pour the yolks into the water and mix everything well. We also add condensed milk here and put it on medium heat. Here we don't go far, constantly stirring, boil until the first signs of thickening. You don't need to boil anything for a long time here. As soon as the mass begins to thicken, immediately remove from the fire. Transfer to another container and allow to cool to room temperature. If desired, you can add a little vanilla sugar at this stage. I don't add vanilla sugar as it's for flavor. Then I'll add alcohol.
And we make sure to cover with plastic wrap so that we don't wind up anything. Also, the cake will need to be well soaked. The syrup for soaking is very simple to prepare. Mix 100 ml of water and 100 grains of sugar. Bring to a boil, remove from the heat, and let cool to room temperature. Traditionally, alcohol is also added to the impregnation. I will add it after the syrup has cooled. You can add it during the cooking process so that all the alcohol evaporates and only the aroma remains.
The yolks and condensed milk base has cooled to room temperature, so you can proceed with the cream preparation. Begin beating softened butter with a mixer at high speed until it becomes light and fluffy, which should take approximately 5 to 7 minutes.
And this bright, nearly white mass should eventually emerge fully. Afterward, we slowly start incorporating the foundation of 1 or 2 dining establishments.
And beat with a mixer. You don't need to beat for a long time once one portion has been added. Immediately add the next, and here it is important to remember that the oil and the base should be the same room temperature. If the oil is cold or the base is warm, then the cream can become strained and it will be very difficult to correct it.
When the base is already intervened, we proceed to add cocoa, ensuring to sift it to prevent lumps, yielding smooth cream. Subsequently, we incorporate cocoa and mix again with a mixer until even consistency is achieved. Lastly, for enhancing flavor, a bit of rum is added. However, if alcohol isn't preferred, it can conveniently be substituted with vanilla essence or flavor drops to maintain the taste. If every step is meticulously performed, the result is a stunningly smooth and even cream with an impeccable texture.
Well, in principle, we have almost everything ready to assemble the cake, so we take the biscuits out of the refrigerator, and now each biscuit needs to be carefully cut lengthwise to make 2 thin layers. As a result, 4 layers are obtained, as in classic Prague. It is more convenient for me to do this with a large serrated bread knife, and it can also be cut with a string or ordinary thread. Start assembling the cake. Take 1 biscuit cake, put it on a plate or on a backing and soak well with syrup. Do not regret the syrup so that the finished cake turns out really juicy and moist. Then spread about 1/3 of the cream and distribute it evenly.
Place the next biscuit on top and gently press it down, thoroughly soaking it with syrup before generously spreading the cream layer. As demonstrated, assembling the cake is utterly simple. Once you've placed the final biscuit, ensure it's soaked with syrup, then carefully trim the edges for an even distribution of the cream before finishing the design.
The next step is to grease the cake with jam. The classic version uses apricot, but I ran out of it, so I took a plum one with a slight acidity, which perfectly compensates for the sweetness of the cake itself and gives a very interesting taste. We cover the entire surface of the cake with a thin layer, but I still advise you to take apricot jam, so the taste of the cake is as similar as possible to that classic version.
After this, the cake must be put in the refrigerator for 20-30 minutes so that both the cream and the layer of jam slightly gripped, and then it was more convenient to work with it. While the cake is resting in the refrigerator, we will prepare the chocolate icing. It is very easy to prepare. We will need 100 grams of dark chocolate and 100 grams of butter. Transfer the butter to the chocolate and melt in the microwave with short pulses of 10-15 seconds. Mix well each time.
This is how homogeneous and smooth the icing should be. Now it is still liquid, but as it cools it will begin to thicken. You can cover the cake. And such a liquid icing, since the icing will quickly grab us from the refrigerator. Well, personally, it's more convenient for me to cover the cake with thicker icing, so I give it a little more time to cool.
We take the cake out of the refrigerator and put it on the rack so as not to smear the table. I cover the board with parchment and put a grid on top so that when the icing drips, it drips onto the parchment.
Look, my icing has just cooled down, and in consistency it has become similar to this 15% sour cream. So it won't drain and will lie tightly on the cake. Pour the icing on the top of the cake and quickly spread it on the sides with a palette. I left about 1 tablespoon of frosting and will use it for decoration, transferred it to a pastry bag, heated it in the microwave for literally a couple of seconds, so that it became liquid and free circular movements. I'm making a chocolate pattern like this. You can leave a little chocolate cream and decorate the cake with them here, of course, at your discretion.
Now the cake needs to be put in the refrigerator for 10-15 minutes so that the icing finally sticks in the refrigerator. I put it on a rack and only then transfer the cake back to the backing.
Now I'll show you how the cake is. It looks cut right after the refrigerator.
It cuts very easily and evenly.
Look how it turned out inside chocolate and appetizing.
This cake is truly delightful. I personally enjoy it chilled when the cream is dense, but if you prefer a softer texture, simply let it rest at room temperature for 30 minutes. The taste is a harmonious blend of rich chocolate, luscious cream, and a pleasant touch of acidity from the jam, creating a perfectly balanced dessert. If your family has a passion for chocolate treats, they're bound to love this cake. I wholeheartedly encourage trying this recipe, especially if you haven't experienced it yet. The classic Prague recipe, as you've seen, is wonderfully easy to prepare. If my instructions proved helpful, please save and share the recipe with your friends. Additionally, I'd deeply appreciate it if you could provide me with your impressions about this video in the comments section below.